guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 132. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I actually got a little bit of painting done. Games Workshop came out with a really interesting box and some Warcry terrain that makes me wonder if something got moved around in their planning stage. It has been a hot minute since Games Workshop has come out with a hobby product. Usually Games Workshop's hobby products are decent, but like 5 times too expensive. I don't know, Games Workshop always tries to maximize the amount of money they can make. So I guess it makes sense to sell all of these individual tools for crazy prices, but it always makes me wonder, like, at the movie theater, the stuff is really expensive, right? Like a big bucket of popcorn is like $11, but like if popcorn and a soda and like Skittles was like $5, which they could sell it for because that food is basically free, I would get it every single time. But because it's so expensive, I never get it. I wonder if Games Workshop is kind of like missing a trick, because you can just get nippers and an X-Acto knife and stuff for basically free and then put it in a box and sell it for a reasonable price would still, I feel like, net them a really good profit. So I wonder if they made like a little kit, just like a little like hobby starter kit that was really cheap, if everyone would buy it. Like if it was nice, I might even like, just if I'm at the Warhammer store painting some models, I'm like, you know what? I want to clean this mold line I missed. Like I might just grab it just cause like, this is fine. But if it's $25 or more for a little nipper or a little mold line remover, there's no chance. But anyway, Games Workshop has come out with another product that I'm sure is going to be very reasonably priced, and this one is surprisingly interesting. It is a box. I kind of have a soft spot for the old Games Workshop boxes, just with the Citadel logo. I think before that you could get one with the Games Workshop logo on them, and they're just foam trays, and they work. They work really well. I have a few of them. Your models just fit right in there and then they get squished down in the foam. It's pretty decent. It's a little tricky now because Games Workshop models have gotten a lot bigger and a lot spindlier and a little bit more delicate. And so sometimes you don't necessarily want to put your models into the foam because they can kind of get pulled and bent when you yank them out. I know a lot of Lord of the Rings players and their little spear guys. You had to very gently lay those spears down so they did not accidentally stab into the foam and get bent. The new case kind of gets rid of all of that, and it's sort of a genius idea. It uses these little silicone nubs, we'll call them, and I bet this would work, but I would have to feel the little rubber nubs to see just how soft they really are, because in the pictures that they show, it looks like they very delicately placed the models into position with their bases like resting on the nubs. I wonder if you could just sprinkle your models in and close it, and the little fingers would perfectly touch your models. It seems like a good idea. I almost wonder if there should have been more thinner little fingers. Like remember Koosh balls from when you were a little kid? Those little like rubber bands balls? I had to get rid of all of mine because my dog all he would do is try to find it and rip out all of the little rubber bands. But I feel like that would almost be better than big old silicone prongs. They say that this will not damage a delicate little spear, and I just find that hard to believe. If one of these little nubs doesn't just catch a spear at the wrong angle and push on it, but it might be the perfect thing. It might be the next big thing. I know they were they resold their original foam case, but with zigzag foam instead of the square cells. And I feel like that doesn't work great either because now your models are a little bit floppy in there. This might be perfect. I'd have to try it out, but it's also an interesting size. They call it a skirmish case, but it only looks a smidge smaller than their actual carry case. And I wonder if it's just because models have gotten so much bigger. They show it off with like a dozen Stormcast models, and Stormcast models are big. They stand on 40mm bases. They're big and chonky, lots of robes, lots of capes. It's so interesting. I wonder if this is brilliant or if it's just bad. I could totally go either way on it, depending on the toughness of the silicone. Also, magnet cases are just kind of perfect. The only time magnet cases maybe aren't the greatest thing of all time is like if you're trying to transport your models through the airport or something. Just you've got a box full of metal and magnets, and you're like, it's got to go through the detector, and you got to tell them what it is. Where if you've got a foam case, your stuff is pretty well rock solid safe. It's kind of the only time I would say foam is better than magnets. The only way this I think is better is if you can literally dump your models on top of it, close it up, and all the little fingers perfectly hold your models for transport. It's really interesting though. It's a new design. I haven't seen this anywhere else. I don't like that the two halves come apart. I like a lid. You gotta have a lid to keep the two halves together. Otherwise, it just takes up more space because you got the base and you got the lid somewhere else. But overall, it's interesting. See, that's the problem with Games Workshop is they actually do make pretty good products, and then they charge way, way too much for them. God, if Games Workshop ever made a wet palette, it'd probably be like $100 for a sponge and some paper. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised they came out with a new carrying case. It's great that it's skirmish size, because literally they're like, we know we can't make anything that'll hold all your models because you have too many models. It's impossible. But you could put a couple of them in here if you wanted to. Yeah, I really want to get my hands on one of these and see how it feels. Because I could go either way. It could be perfect. It could be way too much. I'm very skeptical that it will not bend a little tiny spear. I also wonder what the maximum depth a model can be. Like, could a 60mm base model fit in here? Could you get a dreadnought in here? Or is it only for infantry and cavalry sized dudes? I would assume it's infantry and cavalry sized dudes because it says it's a skirmish case. And maybe they will make this into a bigger army case later on with more nubbins. But I don't know. I like little silicone shafts as much as the next person, but I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of this product. And speaking of things I'm skeptical about, so I was building a bunch of army lists in the Games Workshop app, and it's okay. It's a fine army builder app. I think the biggest issue with it is just it misses a feature of letting you easily print out your list and have it be really nice. Like it'll make the list for you so that you can print it in. It'll say the names of what you brought, but it's not. One Page Rules has an amazing army builder app where when you go to print it, you can either print it as cards or you can print it as just like a 1 or 2 sheet thing, and it'll give you your list of units, and then it'll also find all of your special rules and then print those full underneath your army list. So if you're like, oh, my weapon has piercing 1, I forget what piercing 1 does, you can look right at your army sheet. That's printer friendly, and it's got that right there for you. I think that's the one big thing that the Games Workshop app is missing. But the other thing it's missing is it was free. It was free, and now it's only sort of free. Games Workshop is double dipping. Now with the release of the Codex Space Marines and Codex Tyranids, we're sort of back to the old way of doing things, where you got your big rule book and you got your codex, and you're kind of meant to pen and paper your army list. But I feel like you can never go back. I feel like we can't go back now that we've gotten a taste of how perfect digital rules are. I love the indexes. I love just being able to bring them up on my computer and just, Control F DocaJet, and then boom, it takes me right to DocaJet. Like that's what I want out of an art. I want it to be easy, and I want it all to be there, and I want it all to be available to me so I can read my rules, I can read my opponent's rules, I can read through every single rule in the game, which I've done. And I would not be able to do that if I actually had to purchase every single codex, because I'm not going to do that. And so we all got a taste. We got a taste of perfection. And now it's locked behind the dumbest paywall, because you're not subscribing to the rules to get those rules back. You're subscribing to be able to save more army lists in the app at the same time. Because right now you get one for free. And I don't know if Games Workshop told us that would be the case. I want to say they just said it's going to go behind a paywall, and that'll be the end of it for free use. But now you can use the app for free, but you can only save one army list, which is almost fine. Like, I guess you could build an army list and print it out or screenshot it and then delete it and build a new army list, but it's just dumb to lock that feature behind a paywall. The dumber thing is that if you want the codex information in your app, or if you want to unlock the codex information in your app, you have to purchase the physical book. And then, like Webkins back in the day, you have to find the little code attached to the Webkins foot or in the back of the codex, and then put that into your app. and then you get access to the rules. It's madness. Just sell the book. Just don't have anything to do with the app. Just sell a book. It's because some people like the book. Some people, they just want the physical. They want phones and screens off while they're gaming. I totally get it. They can buy their book. They can pen and paper their rules, but the app is nice. I like the app. And the only thing I don't like about the app, kind of mentioned this with the list building, but it's also hard to navigate. If you just want to look at the app while you're playing the game, it's hard to actually navigate to get your rules because it's got just drop-down menus galore. I feel like whoever they got to build the app for them was paid by the drop-down menu, because every unit in the game, it's like, oh, Gazgul, what is his keywords again? Click on Gaz, just giant thing of menus. Click on special abilities, then you get a drop-down of his abilities. It's like literally Games Workshop formatted 10th edition for all the information to fit on cards. Just let me see the card when I click on Gazgul. It's obnoxious that now there's 2 different formats to look at the rules in. It's wild. But I don't know. I feel like out of Games Workshop, they do a pretty good job of having really, really great models. Their game is fine, but it's just so weird about how they actually do things because it's so unstreamlined and it's so obtuse. Because also you're not just subscribing to the app, you're also subscribing to a free model of your choosing that you can add to cart and pretend to buy eventually when we have them in stock. And you get the access to these animations and lore and painting videos and stuff. And that's kind of cool if you care. And also you can go to a separate app and you get more features in your separate app, like adding more army lists to your roster. It's just a weird all over the place situation. Like, why can't I just subscribe to animations or get this free model or pay for the free model or subscribe to the army rules? Like, I just want the thing I want. I don't necessarily want everything under the sun. It's so weird. Games Workshop is so weird. I'm currently subscribed to Warhammer TV, which also means Warhammer Plus, so I can make some army lists, but it's just obnoxious. And you know what? The new models weren't so hot this year, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna continue. Some of the animations have been really cool. Some of them have been okay. The painting, the lore stuff, free model, It's just, Games Workshop. They're putting way too much effort into making boxes. They should work on their app system. It's not working. We can't go back. We've been given a taste of perfection when it comes to the rules. It's all free. It's all right there. Just go download it or just go look at it in your web browser. But now we have to get a book and flip through the book and copy the link and put the thing into the thing, and then we can finally pick detachments for the Tyranid army. It's wild. And because the rules are free, now it feels like I barely need to buy that Tyranid Codex, because also the points values are now digital, only digital. They're printed in the book, but in reality, the updated points that you should be using for your games exists online. So the only thing in that codex is a little bit of lore, probably some pretty pictures of painted models, and the 6 detachments. Like, that's literally probably 2 or 3 pages of information, probably closer to 2. That's literally all you need to buy this book for. It's getting absolutely ridiculous. And they could fix it. They could fix it all. Just have the codex be a pretty book full of pretty stuff. Grab some chapters from novels and stuff. Really make it a nice tome for your faction, but have all the stuff reasonably available digitally. It's wild. And speaking of wild, I experienced something this week that I have not experienced in a very long time, and that is my Necron army. Because I am participating in a tournament for Combat Patrol, I needed one more Necron for my Necron Combat Patrol, and that is the Doomstalker. And it has been a very long time since I've painted a Necron. Holy cow, white is hard to paint. But I did it. It took a long time. I thought it would be like just a super, super quick, easy paint job, but in reality, it took many evenings to get this guy painted up. And there's still a few things I would like to do to it. I feel like the black is still a little bit plain. It's just contrast, or it's Army Painter Speed Paint black. But I'm pretty happy with this. But it's making me wonder about my Necron army, because my Necron army is looking rough for 10th edition. I collected it all in high school, which was a long time ago. And so I don't have any of the new stuff. Anything that came out for 8th edition or for 9th edition. I have none of the new stuff, and it seems like the new stuff is sort of some of the stuff that you need for a competitive or at least reasonably capable Necron army nowadays. It seems like just only the things that you could buy 10 years ago aren't cutting the mustard anymore. You need some of the new stuff. So I'm gonna have to paint a bunch of Necrons, and they're tricky to paint. I thought that they would really, really come together. I think it's probably just because I'm out of practice, because I've been painting tons of Black Templar, tons of Tyranids, whole gaggle of Orcs. The Necrons have not gotten a lot of love as of late, but I'm definitely gonna need to give them some in the near future because I wanna play with them on the tabletop. First army I played with in 10th edition was Necrons, and I got stomped, but it was fun. Reanimation is a wonderful rule. Your Necrons will not die. And I wanna say that their vehicles have a 4-up invulnerable save, which is shocking. It's almost mean. A 4-up invulnerable save on vehicles is really, really good. Now the Necron vehicles, especially the Knop Tech ones, are a little bit worse at fighting and a little bit worse at shooting than they used to be, but being really, really tough is really fun. With painting my Necron guys, usually the white and the black is pretty darn easy, and it's the candy corn red, orange, yellow that is really a problem. And it's definitely true. It took a long time to perfectly paint all of this orange using a lot of speed paint and contrast paint. And I actually tried oils to get white inside of his little Gauss flares, and it did not work at all. It was really fussy, and in wiping it off, too much of it wiped off. I think I'm gonna have to come up with another strategy of getting the white perfectly into the little delicate details while still being able to do it in a timely manner. But I like it. This is a really cool model. It reminds me a lot of the Doomsday arc because literally it has the Doomsday arc's gun on top. And it has actually some really good vehicle killing, which for 10th edition, you gotta be able to kill a vehicle. The game is absolutely full of vehicles. So I actually wanted to get a trio of these guys, but once again, Games Workshop, you should make more models because I want to buy more models and literally I can't find them anywhere. Doomstalker, fun little painting project. But speaking of projects, I wonder if Games Workshop has axed one of their upcoming projects because they came out with something. Savage Lands Scales of Talaxis. Never before seen Warcry terrain, and it's just terrain. And Games Workshop doesn't really do that. They always come out with new cool terrain in a doubles box, in a kill team box or a Warcry box with a couple of Warcry teams and a rule book that frustratingly only has the rules for your things in them. And now this is just a brand new terrain set, which is really cool and would look really cool alongside 2 awesome Warcry warbands. But it's not attached to anything. And this terrain isn't recycled from a previously existing Warcry set. I don't get it. Like, did we miss out on a Warcry box? Did Games Workshop have the terrain ready to go and they were just waiting on the models to be built for it and the models just never materialized? And so now they're just putting the terrain out? Because it seems like Games Workshop doesn't really care about terrain, which makes sense. I mean, if you got money to burn on Games Workshop product, you want cool models. You're probably not going to spend Games Workshop prices on terrain, which, you can have the coolest models and it'll totally just make it okay to play with like, your salt and pepper shaker and a tissue box and a deck of cards on the table. Because the terrain, you can make it up in your head. You can make up this cool narrative and environment, but the models, you want the models to look really cool. So I'm really wondering, I would love a direct line to Games Workshop and ask them, did a Warcry box go away? Like, did we miss out on teams? What are they doing with the new Fireslayer warband? Are they coming out in an upcoming box or are they just gonna come out separately, attached to nothing? I could definitely get behind if Games Workshop is gonna do away with their big old boxes and just sell everything separately. That's how they used to do things. And how they used to do things was literally, you would never know. Things would just come out. There would be no fanfare about it. Where now everything has got tons and tons of ads and things to get you excited for the doubles box. I think it's okay for things like Warcry and Kill Team, but I don't like it for big 40k because then it's like, I should get the big old cool box because it comes with a decent number of models for a decent price, but they're not the ones that you chose. I prefer you choosing all the things you want in your big 40k or Age of Sigmar armies, where with Warcry, it's like, I want to try out these warbands. I want to try out this new setting. It's a little different. It's like an expansion pack to a video game more so than just adding things onto your army. I don't know if this terrain really knocks my socks off, but you know what terrain really knocks my socks off? That is the terrain available on our Patreon. Over there, we have a brand new STL terrain set every month. This month, we have the Gothic Administratum, a grimdark cathedral that can be assembled both intact or destroyed. We also make extra episodes of Eon's Battle where we take a look at our viewers' miniatures and give some ideas and critiques of how to improve their painting, and we have a tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templars and you can join the crusade. I have been on a miniature building spree as of late, which has kind of made me sad, because now I have a humongous pile of shame on my desk of models that all need to be painted, and now it's time to paint them. And it's like, there's too many. I just gotta knock them out one at a time. Thanks for watching.